Ever feel like you're walking on eggshells when it comes to office politics? Or even like just dealing with people who always seem to get their way?
Oh, absolutely.
Today we're diving into a book that really gets into the nitty-gritty of those power dynamics. Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power.
Yeah, it's a book people have some strong opinions about.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's been called, well, manipulative,
Woo!
to
Put it lightly.
put it lightly, yeah.
Yeah,
But honestly, I think understanding these laws is important. Whether you use them yourself or not, it's like getting a peek behind the curtain to see how power really works.
totally. Like Green gives you this X-ray vision into how people climb the ladder, how they protect what they have, and how they get what they want, and it's not always pretty.
It's not always sunshine and rainbows, that's for sure. And he does it all by looking at some pretty fascinating historical figures.
Emperors, con artists.
Vise. We're talking about people who knew how to play the game.
And what's really interesting is how, even though these figures are, larger than life, the power dynamics they were dealing with, they still happen every day. You probably even see them in your own life.
Oh, absolutely. You hear about those colleagues who always seem to get their way, or that manager who always seems to come out on top.
It's like they've got this secret playbook.
Exactly. And we're about to unlock those secrets. Green lays out 48 laws, each more interesting than the last.
Have you ever felt like you shouldn't, outshine your boss, even if you don't mean to?
Oh, yeah.
That's law one, never outshine the master. And we've got a story about that, a cautionary tale about this, charismatic young man who maybe learned that lesson the hard way.
Oof, can't wait to hear that one. Or how about this one? Ever notice how certain people always seem to be steps ahead?
Like they can see the future or something.
Exactly. A lot of
Yeah.
times it's about mastering Law 3, conceal your intentions. We're going to get into how Bismarck used this law to unify Germany.
Wow.
He was playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers.
That's one way to put it.
And have you ever noticed how sometimes those strong, silent types can be kind of intimidating?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well, Louis XIV, the Sun King himself, he was a master of Law 4, always say less than necessary.
Really?
He was all about that. Green says sometimes silence can be a really powerful tool, especially when you're trying to, protect power. So diving into this whole never outshine the master thing, Green talks about Cesare Borgia,
Okay.
powerful Italian prince, right?
Right.
And Borgia, he had this right-hand man, Astor Manfredi,
Okay.
young, capable guy,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe a little too good at his job.
Really?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the interesting thing here is that Manfredi wasn't trying to, take over or anything. He was just naturally talented.
Oh, okay.
He was charming, he had skills, but that was enough to make Borgia feel threatened.
Interesting.
And this gets to a big part of these laws, right? It's not always about, actual competence. It's about how it's perceived.
Yeah, the appearance of power can be just as potent as actual power, sometimes even more so.
Totally. It's like that saying, the tallest poppy gets cut down first.
Exactly.
So Borgia, he sees Manfredi getting popular, and he's like, nope, not having it. Even if Manfredi wasn't trying to outshine him, it didn't matter.
Wow. What happened?
It gets brutal. Borgia made up this whole story about Manfredi betraying him,
Oh, no.
had him executed.
That's intense.
It's a good reminder to be mindful of who you're working with.
Hmm.
And maybe, don't steal their thunder.
Yeah, don't make yourself the target. So we're seeing how not to play the game. What about someone who really knew how to play it well?
Okay, so speaking of strategic maneuvering, Bismarck, the
Yeah.
story about him unifying Germany, it's like a master class in Conceal Your Intentions, Law 3.
Okay.
It's wild how he pulled it off.
What did he do?
So Bismarck, he knew that if he just came out and said what he wanted, everyone would push back.
Makes sense.
So instead of, forcing his agenda, he kept his real goals hidden.
Oh, interesting.
Really carefully leaking information only when it would help him.
Wow.
He even acted like he was against this war.
What?
Yeah. The same war that ended up making Prussia, dominant.
So he was playing the long game, thinking way ahead.
Exactly. And it makes you think, how often does that kind of thing happen in everyday life? Have you ever noticed how some people always seem to be one step ahead in meetings or in negotiations? They're probably using this law, even without realizing it.
It's like they've got some kind of sixth sense.
Totally. It's like they're holding all the cards, but they let you win a hand or two just to keep you in the game.
So it's all about control. Speaking of control, let's talk about Louis XIV and his thing for silence.
Oh, yeah. Law 4. Always say less than necessary. It does seem a little counterintuitive, right? We're always told communication is key.
Right. Talk it out, over-communicate, and all that.
Exactly. But Green and Louis XIV would say that knowing when to shut up, that can be super powerful.
How so?
Well, Louis XIV, the Sun King, right? He built this whole aura of mystery and authority just by not oversharing. Everyone at court was dying for his attention.
Oh, I bet.
But he was just cool, calm, collected,
Mm-hmm.
spoke only when he had something to say, and chose his words carefully.
It makes you wonder what he was really thinking, you know?
Right. It's like this power. It needs a little bit of mystery.
Oh, I like that.
The less people know about your motives, how you do things, the more they overthink. They fill in the blanks themselves.
And that uncertainty can make you more powerful.
Exactly. Think about it. Haven't you ever been a little intimidated by someone who just seems to have their act together? They don't need to explain themselves or prove anything.
Oh, totally. It's like they're playing a different game entirely.
Exactly. Okay, but let's switch gears for a second. Let's talk about a story that shows why you should always be wary of someone who promises to make you rich quick.
Okay.
This is where Yellow Kid Weil comes in, one of the most notorious con men in history. So Yellow Kid Weil, kind of a funny nickname for a guy who was all about, well, taking your money.
Right. But that's Law 21 in action. Play a sucker to catch a sucker. Weil was a master at finding people's weaknesses and exploiting them.
And in this case, the weakness was greed.
Classic.
Well, he goes around saying he's got this machine, right?
A machine? What kind of machine?
Get this, a machine that prints perfect counterfeit money.
Come on, seriously. Who would fall for that?
Right. You'd think it was a joke,
Yeah.
but that's just it. When someone dangles something you really want in front of you, something that seems too good to be true, logic can go right out the window.
It's like all those get-rich-quick schemes you see.
Exactly. And Weil, he was a master salesman. He wasn't just selling a machine, he was selling a fantasy. This fantasy of escaping your problems, living the good life, all thanks to his magic money machine.
Oh, man. The fantasy is what really hooks people, isn't it?
It's powerful stuff. And it makes you think there are so many versions of this, even today, right? Those too good to be true investments, miracle products, they all play on that same desire for a quick fix, an easy way out.
So how do we protect ourselves from that? I mean, we all want to believe in the fantasy sometime.
It's true. And that's why understanding these laws is so important. It's like having a defense against those who would use these tactics on you. The more aware you are of how manipulation works, the less likely you are to fall for it.
It's like a vaccine against manipulation. Knowledge is power.
Exactly. And look, we've covered a lot today. From emperors to con men, from the courts of kings to the back rooms of shady deals, we've seen how these power dynamics play out in all different ways.
We've talked about deception, about crafting an image, about the power of silence, and even about exploiting people's deepest desires.
Right. And I think the biggest takeaway here is this. Knowledge is power. By understanding these laws, you're not just a pawn in the game. You can actually change the way you play. So that's it for our deep dive into Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. We hope you learned a thing or two. And the next time you feel like you're walking on eggshells, remember what we talked about today. Stay aware, stay savvy, and remember, the real power is in understanding the game,